Hi all, myself, Dr. Holton, and Dr. Jinks would like to welcome you to Chem H30. This video is meant to give you a brief orientation to the class and specifically to some of its more business aspects to free up a bit of class time on the first day. This course is your first in the Sustainable Societies track and will only have campus honors program students in it. We will focus on case studies that will encourage you to learn the basic aspects of scientific inquiry and how they are inextricably linked to sociocultural topics. You may have noticed this also fulfills the Basic Science General Education course. That is because in order to understand the case studies, you'll also want to learn many biological and chemical concepts. As long as the class stays under about 50 students, we won't have discussions. This is because it is small enough to do the in-class activities with just myself and Dr. Jinks in our normal lecture class. But this might mean that you'll need to do a bit of extra outside of class, since it does unfortunately cut our class time by about an hour a week, and we might ask you to prepare a bit for the in-class activities each week. Now let's start by showing you around Canvas. You'll access Canvas the typical way through HTTE by clicking on your UCI Canvas course space. From here, it will take you to the Canvas course modules. For the most part, this is how you will navigate through the course information. Note that weeks 1 through 3 are currently published, and once we get to the midterm, we will publish the rest as well. Please note that these are estimations and may have to change slightly based on how long it takes us to complete the in-class materials each day. For now, we're going to be focusing on the Course Information Resources module. This is where you'll find your syllabus, your group assignments, your handouts, your lecture slides, and your in-class activities. There is also a link to perusal, which you will use to get credit for your scientific readings, and there are links to your course projects. Let's take each of these in turn. First, your syllabus. Note that your syllabus, as well as most of your documents, are going to be in a Google Doc, and this allows us to update in real time. So if anything is mentioned or changed, we can change it in the document. It also allows you to comment, and we'll talk about this a bit more in your handouts. This is an overview of all of the important information for the course. You'll want to click on it and read it through in detail. Our contact information is here, along with our office hours, or at least they will be once we have determined them. You'll also have the book information. Remember that you'll probably want to buy this on Amazon to avoid the bookstore markup. Most of the readings will actually be done inside Perusal in Canvas. We'll get to Perusal a bit later. Another important piece of advice is that for in-class, you'll need an internet-connected device of some sort. Participation in the class is mandatory, and participation in the in-class activities are mandatory. Most of these are best done if you have a phone or a laptop or a tablet that can connect to the internet. As with any syllabus, you'll find out how your grades are evaluated, and each of these will be discussed in more detail on the actual document for the actual project or activity. Please make sure you get a chance to read through this all of the way at some point before coming to class. Now, the next part I don't want to click on to show you because it will unfortunately take me to this year's one and show everybody's names and emails, but click on the group assignments page and you'll be taken to a page that shows you your groups. These, for the most part, will be your group for the entire quarter, assuming everything goes okay. If we have to, we can switch some things up. Most of the in-class activities are done in these groups, and the naked statistics presentation will also be done with these groups. The first day of class, when you come in, try to find your group and sit down. If necessary, go ahead and ask us and we'll facilitate introductions. Now, the handout folder. If you click on the handout folder, it takes you to a Google Drive folder. And these folders have all your handouts for the quarter. These are subject to changes at any time, but the most updated version will always be here. So your first one, for instance, is a handout on the scientific method. These will all follow the sort of general, or at least most of them will follow the general outline of first an introduction and purpose, because it's important for you to know what you're supposed to be getting out of these handouts. An overview of what the handout will cover, and then a more detailed breakdown of each of the things. And that is going to be your meat of the handout. Generally, there will be some sort of literature example. Sometimes I'll just mention what we're going to talk about in class. Sometimes I'll give you extra. So it's this general format, but it varies a little bit based on the individuals. Note that you have commenting privileges on this. So if you want to comment something, all you need to do is go into Insert in your menu headers and click on Insert Comment. You can also use shortcuts if you know those. You're welcome to talk to each other on this or to talk to us. If there's anything that isn't clear, please make a comment on it. This will help us edit the documents to make them clearer to understand, or just answer your question if it's more of an individual question issue. So this one I wanted to show you because we've added a section called Basic Background. We added that based on feedback from last year from students asking us to give a bit more of a background for students who didn't have very much science in their past course history. Please let us know if this is not basic enough, if there's questions, if you need more help, anything where you would need more information on this to understand it as a non-science major. So if you have more questions, just let us know and we'll either answer them or even just add to the basic background sections of each one. You'll also sometimes see this section called Further Reading. For the most part, this is just an FYI. It's if this is something that interests you and you want to read more about, you can click on it. Sometimes it's actually the more detailed version of where I adapted the handout from. Sometimes it's significantly more in depth and is only for people who are really interested in it. It's just things that I thought, hey, maybe somebody in the class might like to have and might like to read. All right, let's go back to our modules. The next thing you'll find is your lecture slide folder. And this is similar to your lecture handout folder in that they're all in the Google Drive and they're all Google Docs. So we can click on one of these. And the same thing here. Please let us know if you have any questions. Make little comments. These are mostly for our in-class materials, so we may not actually change them if it's just sort of a clarification question, but we'll definitely be able to answer it. And if something is really unclear, we'll be able to actually change it for later classes. So your feedback is really, really welcome here. Right now they're labeled by days. These might change a little bit just based on approximately how fast the class goes. Sometimes something takes a little bit longer or a little bit shorter than what we would expect, so there may be some variability. You'll also notice that you could actually just access all of these from the student share folder. And this might be a good page to just bookmark so that anytime you want to do anything in the class and you don't want to have to go through EEE through Canvas to get to the handout page, you can just bookmark this and go straight to it. Similarly, the class activities folder, which is also available through the Google Drive folder. We'll have your class activities. So these, for the most part, will be done in class, though we might have situations where we need to have you do a part of it at home and come prepared with it and then do the harder parts in class. Or we might have a couple of sections where we do it in class to introduce the topic and then we give you kind of a take-home project for the last part. Next, we have perusal. This will link you to the page where we discuss perusal for you. Take a moment and read through all of these. I'm not going to read them to you because you could do that. Make sure that right away you come into here and make your account. You'll need to use this code to log into the course. And then once you log into the course, I'll be able to put you in groups. And for this, you'll be in the same groups as your in-class groups. And you'll be able to, yours might look a little bit different from mine just because mine's the instructor version, but it'll be about like this. So you'll be able to come in and look at your upcoming assignments and click in and read through them. You'll notice there's a lot of comments already in these. And that's because we have already commented on them. And so if you click on any one of these, you'll see little comments from us. And in the beginning, there will be a lot of these because we want to offer you a lot of help in how to do this. And you won't have quite as much information in the beginning of your own because we'll be teaching you a lot of this stuff as we go along. But we still want to start you with the literature right away. For each reading, you'll have a certain number of comments that you need to provide, and each assignment will tell you how many that is. For the most part, this will be doing the grading itself. It has an AI that does a pretty good job grading, but that doesn't mean that we aren't coming in and answering questions. Note that there is a little bit of an odd glitch in that we can't comment to a specific groups. So when you see comments, you'll see your own groups and you'll see anything that we put in it, which means that if I respond to group number 3, all of the groups are going to see it. So if you ever see a comment that seems a little out of place for me, it's obvious that I'm replying to a student, but there's no student comment there for you to see. Just don't worry about that. So the AI will grade you. And then we go through and kind of double check it. Last time, I think in the whole class, I maybe had to change 5 or 6 of the grading comments, so it does a pretty good job. But if you ever feel like it's just not doing a good job or something is a little bit off, let us know. Perusal is pretty new technology. It's only a few years old, and it's not perfect, but it is very, very good. You don't have to only comment on the things that we've commented on either. You're more than welcome to just make your own comments. If you see this and you think, oh, I have something interesting to say about that, I'd like to make a comment there, you're welcome to start your own conversations as well. Ours are just for guidelines. So you can read through these, and this will give you a little bit more in depth, on the grading, and you'll have all of that information. Lastly, the 2 course projects, and the naked statistics presentation isn't exactly long enough to be called a project, but we'll put it in that section anyways. So we'll start with this. So this will be done with your group, and you'll go ahead and present a chapter or 2 of the naked statistics book. This should only be a maximum of 5 minutes. And we understand that this is very difficult for you to do a whole chapter in 5 minutes, but we need you to keep it to 5 minutes so that we don't end up with 20-minute statistic presentations where we then can't get to the in-class material. Knowing why we are having you do this is helpful here. We really just want it to be a summary of the absolute most important topics, and then 1 or 2 little additional things that will help you and your fellow students really cement the main topics of the chapter to your memory. Everybody should be reading these before they come to class. Everybody is taking a quiz on this before they come to class. So you don't have to teach the whole chapter. It's more of a very short vignette to help your fellow students remember the chapter. And we will post all of your presentations into the group folder as well. So you'll be able to see those from each other if you want to go back and review for the midterm or final. So then lastly, we have our 2 projects. So our first project is going to be 3 parts. And each of the parts build on each other. So these are a place for you to analyze literature that we are giving you. You can read about the grading yourself and read about some of this. We'll take these 3 parts and we'll build them in difficulty. In each one, we'll give you either a whole paper or a section of a paper. You'll be able to read through them, and then you'll answer questions on it. So this is a much longer paper, and if you want, you can access all of the papers in here, but you only really need to do what we give you. And then, at the end of that, you'll answer some questions. Basically asking you to analyze paper 1, analyze paper 2, and then make some recommendations based on those 2 papers if you were in fact a doctor. Part 2 is going to be similar in the sense that we'll give you the papers to read, or the 2 papers to read, and ask you some questions about it. But now you're going to be asked to actually relate these to sociocultural factors. And then in part 3, we'll ask you to do a similar sort of idea, but the paper is a little bit harder to understand, a little bit harder to read, and we're not giving you quite as much guidelines. We're giving you a little bit more vague of questions, such as what is the significance of the passage below, as opposed to kind of giving away the answer a little bit in the questions like we were doing in the first 2. And that's just because we're building in difficulty and building in complexity so that eventually you're going to feel comfortable going out, finding your own papers, reading them, and learning things from them. And that's what the final course project is going to be. So in the final course project, you're going to pick your own concept of what you want to do. And this shouldn't really be something that we've covered in class at all. We'll have you turn things in at each step here so that we can make sure that you're on the right track. So you'll pick a topic, you'll do a literature search on it, and then you'll give us the literature search so that we can look at it. But we will also have you evaluate the literature so that you'll be able to look at the literature and say, is this good or is this not quite so good? Is it trustworthy for one part but not trustworthy for another part? What is the strong parts of this? What are the weak parts of this? And then you'll take and put that into a final project. And the final project can really be just about anything that you want. Some people have made videos, some people like to make websites, some people like to just write a paper. We've had people do screenplays, really anything that you want. You can kind of get as creative with this as you want, as long as at the end of the day, you're giving accurate information on a health topic based on the literature that you have found and analyzed. Something that's important to remember when we get there, although of course we'll talk about this more, is that it's going to need to be above and beyond what we have done in the class. You can't take something that we've done in class and just reformat the information and present that. It's got to be something new. Now I know I ran through all this super fast, and that's okay because each of these are going to be handled in way more detail as we get through the material in class. But this is just meant to be a little bit of an overview for you so you can kind of see where the class is going, what the main assignments for the courses are, and get a feel for how to navigate around Canvas and Perusal. So we'll see you all in class.